Our world is saturated with advice on confidence, yet so many still feel uncertain. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. He understood that true self-assurance is not an external achievement, but an internal architecture. This video uncovers the hidden psychological patterns used by legendary Stoic thinkers to construct an unshakable core. We will explore how principles like the dichotomy of control and radical resilience can be directly applied to the anxieties of modern life. You will gain a practical framework for building a confidence that does not rely on your circumstances. How did figures like Seneca and Epictetus remain so composed in the face of exile and political chaos? What single mental shift separates their profound self-possession from our own fleeting bouts of courage? By the end, you will possess a toolkit of ancient strategies to cultivate a confidence that is immune to external validation. What does unbreakable inner strength look like to you? The first hidden pattern separates what is within your power from what is not. This is the core Stoic principle known as the Dichotomy of Control. It teaches that our confidence is shattered not by events themselves, but by our misplaced focus. We exhaust ourselves trying to command the weather, the opinions of others, or the final outcome of a business deal. The ancient teacher Epictetus, born into slavery, framed it with stark clarity. He said, "Some things are within our power while others are not. Within our power are opinion, pursuit, desire, aversion, and, in a word, whatever are our own actions." He identified the only true territory you govern, your own mind, your choices, and your efforts. Everything else, from your reputation to the stock market, resides outside your direct command. Modern anxiety thrives in this gap. We tie our self-worth to a promotion, a perfect date, or social media likes, all of which are ultimately externals. This is why confidence feels so fleeting, because it is chained to things we cannot guarantee. Consider a job rejection. The natural reaction is to internalize the no, to see it as a verdict on your entire capability. But the Stoic pattern asks a different question. Did you prepare thoroughly? Did you present your authentic self? These are your actions, and they are where your power truly lies. The outcome, the hiring manager's final decision, was never yours to control. Your confidence then must be rooted in the quality of your attempt, not the trophy you receive. This mental shift is not about giving up, but about investing your energy where it actually builds inner strength. Think of one situation that recently caused you stress, perhaps a difficult conversation you are anticipating. How much of your worry is spent on the other person's reaction, an external you cannot control? Now consider how your perspective would change if you focused solely on preparing your words with honesty and integrity, the part that is entirely yours. This is the foundation of a confidence that cannot be taken from you. What if your thoughts were clouds in the sky, not the sky itself? This is the essence of the second hidden pattern, cognitive detachment. It is the practice of observing your mental reactions without being consumed by them. The Stoics called this the discipline of assent, the crucial pause between receiving an impression and giving it your full belief. It is in that small space that your true confidence is built, not in the absence of negative thoughts, but in your relationship with them. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself of this in his private writings. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He was not denying his thoughts, but rather watching them come and go, refusing to let a passing storm define his entire inner world. Modern life bombards us with impressions, from a stressful news alert to a dismissive comment online. Our instinct is to fuse with that first emotional jolt, to let it dictate our entire mood and self-worth. This is how a single critical email can ruin an entire afternoon, how a stray worry can spiral into hours of anxiety. Cognitive detachment breaks that chain. It asks you to step back and see the thought for what it is, a temporary mental event, not an absolute truth. Imagine you receive harsh feedback on a project. The initial impression might be a surge of embarrassment or defensiveness, a voice inside shouting that you are a failure. The untrained mind grabs onto that thought and runs with it, building a whole story of inadequacy. But the Stoic pattern intervenes. It allows you to notice the thought, acknowledge the sting, and then, crucially, question it. Is this feedback entirely true? Is it partly true? Is it simply one person's perspective? By creating that distance, you reclaim your power to choose your response. You can extract the useful kernel of advice without swallowing the bitter narrative of shame. Your confidence is no longer at the mercy of every passing judgment, internal or external. It becomes a calm, inner observer. Think back to a recent time you felt a strong emotional reaction, perhaps a flash of anger in traffic or a pang of envy scrolling through social media. In that moment, your thoughts likely felt like undeniable reality. But what if you had been able to see them as just clouds drifting by? How might that small shift have changed your next action and ultimately your sense of self-assurance? This is not about becoming emotionless, but about building a confidence that is rooted in choice, not in chaos. Nietzsche echoed the Stoics when he said Amor Fati, but what does it truly mean for your self-assurance? The phrase translates to a love of one's fate, yet this is far more than passive acceptance. It is the active embrace of every single event, especially the hardships and setbacks, as essential fuel for your growth. The Stoics saw the universe as a rational, interconnected whole. To argue with your place in it, to resent a difficulty, was like a single wave raging against the entire ocean. It was a futile waste of the very energy you needed to navigate the storm. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." He was not just enduring obstacles, he was learning to welcome them as the material that would forge his inner strength. This is the ultimate refrain for building a fearless confidence. Modern life conditions us to seek comfort and avoid pain at all costs. We see a failed project, a financial hurdle, or a personal criticism as a sign that our path is broken. We instinctively believe that the smooth, easy road is the one that leads to success and happiness, but the Stoic pattern of Amor Fati proposes the opposite. The rough road, the detour, the closed door, these are not interruptions to your journey. They are essential parts of it. They are the training ground. Consider a story of a career setback. Imagine a talented designer who is laid off from a prestigious firm. The initial blow is devastating, a direct hit to their identity and confidence. The natural response is bitterness, a feeling of being wronged by the universe. But what if they practiced Amor Fati? Instead of fighting the reality, they lean into it. They ask, what is this situation forcing me to learn? With time, they discover that the corporate structure was stifling their creativity. The layoff, which felt like an ending, pushed them to freelance, to build a personal brand, and ultimately to work on projects that were far more aligned with their true passions. The obstacle did not block the path, it became the path. Their confidence was no longer tied to a job title, but to a proven ability to adapt and thrive in the face of the unexpected. This is the resilient confidence that comes from loving your fate. It is the deep knowing that no matter what happens, you have the capacity to not only handle it, but to use it. So, bring to mind one current challenge you are facing. It might be a source of stress or frustration. Now, for a moment, try on the lens of Amor Fati. How could this very difficulty be shaping a strength you do not yet see? How might this be the exact training you need for the next chapter of your life? From the distant stars, your entire life is a brief, silent flash. This is the fourth hidden pattern, the view from above, a mental exercise that shrinks our anxieties down to their true size. The Stoics practiced this to escape the prison of their own ego, realizing that a grander perspective is the source of a quieter, more grounded confidence. Marcus Aurelius constantly returned to this theme, urging himself to see the smallness of human affairs. He wrote, "Remember how long you have been putting this off, and how many times you have been given a period of grace but not used it." At some point, you have to recognize what world it is that you belong to and what power rules it. He was not dismissing his responsibilities, but rather situating them within the vast, flowing river of time and nature. Our modern world constantly amplifies the self. A minor social slight can feel like a public trial, a professional setback like the end of the world. We inflate our own importance, and in doing so, we make ourselves incredibly fragile. The view from above is the deliberate act of popping that bubble. It asks you to mentally rise above your immediate situation, to see your street, your city, your country, until the whole planet is just a pale blue dot in an infinite cosmos. From that vantage point, how significant is that one awkward comment you made, or that one piece of critical feedback? It does not erase the challenge, but it strips away the catastrophic narrative we so often build around it. Before you walk into that high-stakes meeting, your heart might be pounding with the weight of it all. Try this. Take 1 minute and close your eyes. Visualize the room from the ceiling, then the building from the sky, then the city as a tiny grid of lights on the coast of a continent, spinning through a silent universe. When you return to the moment, the meeting still matters, but the performative fear, the worry about looking perfectly smart or capable, will have lost its grip. Your confidence can now come from a deeper place, not from a desperate need to be seen as important, but from a calm understanding of your small yet purposeful role in a vast, beautiful system. So the next time a trivial issue threatens to overwhelm your entire day, pause and take that view from above. Ask yourself, in the grand scheme of my one precious life, how much will this truly matter? The answer often unlocks a profound and unshakable calm. What if fearing failure actually makes it more likely? The Stoics discovered a counterintuitive answer in their fifth hidden pattern, Premeditation Malorum, which means the premeditation of evils. This is not about pessimistic worrying, but about a deliberate and courageous form of mental inoculation. By visualizing potential challenges in advance, you strip them of their power to shock and paralyze you. The goal is to face the mere idea of a setback so thoroughly that when, or if it arrives, you have already built the neural pathways for a calm and resourceful response. Seneca powerfully advocated for this practice. He suggested we periodically rehearse poverty, loss, and even exile. He wrote, "He robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand." This was not a grim exercise in fear-mongering. It was a tool to achieve two profound shifts. First, it immunizes you against the sting of sudden misfortune. Second, and perhaps more importantly, it makes you viscerally grateful for the comforts and opportunities you currently possess, which you so often take for granted. In our modern context, we are culturally conditioned for risk aversion. We build elaborate mental fortresses to keep discomfort at bay, and as a result, the smallest breach in our walls feels like a catastrophic failure. This fragile mindset is the enemy of authentic confidence. True confidence is not the absence of fear, but the presence of a plan. Consider a common fear, public speaking. You have a major presentation, The untrained mind might try to avoid thinking about it or else fantasize only about a flawless performance. Both approaches set you up for a crisis. The Stoic way is to sit down beforehand and consciously walk through what could go wrong. What if the projector fails? What if you forget a key point? What if an audience member asks a question you cannot answer? Now, instead of panicking at these thoughts, you calmly devise your responses. If the projector fails, you have your main points memorized and can speak from a whiteboard. If you forget a point, you have your notes as a backup. If you get a tough question, you have a polite, pre-planned way to say you will follow up. By premeditating these potential obstacles, you are not inviting disaster. You are building a robust contingency plan for your own mind. The presentation itself then becomes just one of many possible scenarios you are prepared to handle. Your confidence transforms from a fragile hope that everything goes perfectly into a solid knowing that you can handle whatever happens. So, bring to mind a common anxiety in your own life, perhaps a difficult conversation or a financial decision. Now, spend a few moments deliberately premeditating the worst-case scenario, not to dwell on it, but to map out your calm and rational response. How does the simple act of having a plan change the texture of your fear? Stoics believe that only one thing is truly good: your character. This is the sixth and most profound hidden pattern, the radical idea that virtue is the sole good. Your confidence, your very happiness, should be anchored not in what you have or what others think of you, but in the unwavering quality of your moral purpose. The legendary thinkers argued that external successes like wealth, status, and even health, while preferable, are not truly good in themselves. They called these things indifferents. What matters is how you use them, whether you wield them with wisdom, courage, justice, and self-control. Your inner excellence is the only thing that can never be taken from you, and thus the only reliable foundation for a confident life. Epictetus, who knew profound personal hardship, put it with unforgettable force. He said, "It is not death or pain that is to be feared, but the fear of pain or death." He was teaching us to train ourselves to despise death, and then he added this crucial line: "I cannot call something a good which can be shared by someone who uses it wrongly." A sword in the hands of a murderer is not a good thing. A fortune in the hands of a corrupt person is not a good thing. The only true good is the virtue with which you wield whatever life gives you. Our modern world has this almost entirely backwards. We tie our self-worth to a job title, the size of our bank account, the number of followers we have. We feel confident when these externals are trending up and shattered when they falter. This creates a confidence that is perpetually on loan from the world, a fickle and unreliable source. The Stoic pattern asks you to make a monumental shift. Invest your sense of self in your integrity, not your income. Consider the story of a mid-level manager we will call Anna. She discovered her company was about to launch a product with a known minor safety flaw her superiors had decided to ignore for the sake of quarterly profits. Anna was in line for a significant promotion, and speaking up would certainly derail it. The modern, external-focused mindset would see the promotion as the ultimate good, the key to her confidence and success. But Anna, who had been reflecting on these ideas, saw it differently. She realized her true confidence had to come from acting with justice and courage. She prepared her case and presented it to her superiors, knowing the personal cost. The promotion was indeed given to someone else, yet something surprising happened. Instead of feeling defeated, Anna felt a calm, solid sense of self-assurance she had never known. Her confidence was no longer tied to a title on a door. It was rooted in the knowledge that she had done the right thing. She had chosen virtue over validation, and in that choice she found a strength that no corporate decision could ever touch. So, where is your own confidence anchored? Take a moment to define your core values. What 3 words like integrity, kindness, or courage best describe the person you truly want to be? Now, with stark honesty, assess your recent actions. How aligned are your daily choices with that inner compass? The gap you might find is not a cause for judgment, but the very map that shows you where to build. Epictetus called assent the most critical faculty, and here is why. This is the 7th hidden pattern, the discipline of assent, and it is the ultimate tool for mastering your inner judge. Your confidence is not determined by the first impression that strikes your mind, but by the crucial pause you insert before you give that impression your belief. Every moment you are presented with appearances, from a terse email to a sudden change in plans. The untrained mind automatically accepts these appearances as absolute truth, triggering a cascade of emotional reactions. The disciplined mind, however, stops and investigates. It asks a simple but profound question. Is this impression an accurate reflection of reality, and does it align with my core values? Epictetus put it with perfect clarity. He said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them." A colleague passes you in the hallway without saying hello. The initial, raw impression might be a story of disrespect, a sign that you have done something wrong or that they dislike you. If you give your immediate assent to that story, you will carry a knot of insecurity and irritation for the rest of the day. Your confidence takes a needless hit based on a fiction you authored yourself, but the Stoic pattern intervenes. In that pause, you examine the impression. Perhaps your colleague was simply preoccupied with a personal problem. Maybe they did not even see you. The objective reality is that a person walked by silently. Everything else is a judgment you are choosing to add. By withholding your immediate assent, you prevent a phantom from dictating your emotional state. This mental discipline is your shield against the modern world's constant stream of misinformation and social reactivity. Think of the last time a negative news headline instantly ruined your mood. You read a fragment of a story and your mind, without your conscious permission, constructed a whole narrative of outrage or fear. The discipline of assent is your personal fact check. It is the habit of pausing to ask, do I have the full context here? Is my emotional reaction proportional to what I actually know? This is not about becoming cold or detached from the world. It is about building a confidence that is rooted in reasoned choice, not in reflexive panic. Your inner judge is no longer a reactive alarm bell, but a calm arbiter of truth. So, the next time a troubling headline flashes on your screen, or you receive a message that triggers a defensive reaction, practice this pause. Withhold your assent for just 5 seconds. In that small space, you will find the power to choose a response rooted in reality, not in fear, and your confidence will grow from that deliberate act of self-command. How would you live if you knew today was your very last? This is not a morbid question, but the heart of the 8th hidden pattern, Memento Mori, the remembrance of death. The Stoics saw this not as a source of dread, but as the ultimate tool for prioritizing courage and cutting through the trivial distractions that consume our days. It is a mental compass that always points toward what is truly essential. Marcus Aurelius regularly meditated on this to sharpen his focus. He wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." He was not fixating on an end, but using the certainty of death to breathe urgency and integrity into every single moment. In our modern world, we are masters of procrastination. We tell ourselves we will pursue that dream, have that difficult conversation, or start that project someday when the conditions are perfect. We delay our courage, trading our most vital ambitions for the temporary comfort of the familiar. Memento Mori shatters that illusion. It asks you to confront the stark reality that someday is not a guaranteed day on your calendar. This realization is not meant to paralyze you, but to liberate you. It forces a profound audit of your time and energy. Consider the fear of public speaking, a common anxiety rooted in the worry of being judged. Now frame that fear through the lens of Memento Mori. If this were your final week, would you really let the potential disapproval of strangers silence your voice? Would you allow a momentary awkwardness to outweigh the importance of sharing your idea? The thought of death shrinks the fear of embarrassment down to its proper, insignificant size. It fuels the boldness to step onto the stage precisely because your time is too precious to waste in silence. The same applies to starting a business or changing careers. The risk of failure feels enormous when you imagine an endless future of potential recovery. But when you remember that your time is finite, the greater risk suddenly becomes inaction, the tragedy of an unlived life spent playing it safe. Your confidence transforms from a hope for future success into the courage to act now, because now is the only time you are ever guaranteed. So take a moment for this final prompt. Write down one thing you would do if you were completely unafraid of failure, remembering the beautiful, heartbreaking brevity of life. What single action does that truth demand from you today? In an age of isolation, the Stoics practiced a radical form of connection. They called this principle oikeiosis, the idea that your personal well-being and confidence are intrinsically linked to your sense of belonging within the entire human family. It teaches that anxiety and insecurity often fester in a mind that is turned inward, obsessively focused on its own status and wounds. True inner strength, they argued, blossoms when you expand your circle of concern beyond yourself. The philosopher Hierocles illustrated this with a powerful image. He described our lives as a series of concentric circles. At the center is your own mind, then your immediate family, followed by extended family, local community, your country, and finally, all of humanity. The goal of the wise person is not to erase these circles, but to continually draw the outer ones inward, to treat the stranger with the consideration you would give a cousin, and a distant nation with the concern you hold for your own city. Marcus Aurelius, who led an empire, constantly reminded himself of this shared bond. He wrote, "What brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee." Your confidence is not a solitary flower growing in a private garden. It is a sturdy branch on a vast, ancient tree. When you feel alone, when you scroll through curated social media feeds and feel lesser, you have contracted your circles. You are seeing yourself as a solitary bee, vulnerable and disconnected. But the Stoic pattern asks you to remember the hive. Think of the last time you volunteered for a cause you believed in. In that moment, your focus was not on your own insecurities, your awkwardness, or your social standing. It was on the task and the people you were serving. A remarkable thing happens in those moments. Your self-consciousness evaporates because your mind is engaged in something larger. Your confidence naturally rises because it is no longer fueled by a desperate need for validation, but by the purposeful act of contribution. This expansion even applies to those you might see as adversaries. Imagine you have a colleague who is consistently difficult. Your usual reaction might be defensive frustration, a tightening of your circle to exclude them. But try the Stoic exercise of empathy. Consider what fears or pressures might be driving their behavior. See them as a product of their own struggles, another person doing what they think is right based on their limited perspective. This does not mean you condone poor behavior, but it releases you from taking it as a personal attack. Your confidence in the interaction grows because you are no longer a reactive target, but a calm, understanding participant in a shared human drama. So, this week, identify one practical way to gently stretch your circle of concern. It could be a simple act of holding the door for a stranger with genuine eye contact, or writing a thoughtful note to a relative you have not spoken to in months. It could be donating your time to a local organization. In that small act of extending your kindness beyond your immediate circle, you are not just helping another, you are actively building a more resilient and unshakable confidence within yourself. While modern culture pushes more, Stoics cultivated enough. This 10th hidden pattern, the art of contentment, reveals that your deepest confidence is not built on getting what you want, but on wanting what you already have. It is the practice of finding sufficiency in the present moment, a radical act in a world that constantly whispers you are incomplete without the next purchase, promotion, or like. The relentless pursuit of more is a trap. It ties your self-worth to a horizon that always recedes, ensuring you never feel truly successful or secure. The Stoics identified this endless wanting as the primary source of our anxiety. They taught that by consciously limiting our desires, we do not live a life of deprivation, but one of profound and lasting freedom. Seneca, a man of immense wealth, was its most powerful critic. He saw luxury not as a comfort but as a prison. In his letters he wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." He was exposing the folly of believing that external acquisitions could ever fill an internal void. True riches, he argued, are found in the richness of a mind that knows its own limits and finds joy in simplicity. This is not a call to abandon ambition, but to redirect it. Ambition for character, for virtue, for a calm mind. These are pursuits that yield a confidence no market can crash. Our modern consumerist engine runs on status anxiety. It convinces us that our neighbor's new car or a colleague's vacation photos are a verdict on our own lives. We scroll and we compare, and with every swipe, our own existence feels just a little bit smaller, a little less sufficient. This manufactured dissatisfaction is a direct attack on your innate confidence. The Stoic art of contentment is the antidote. It begins with a conscious audit of your desires. Where are you chasing something not for its true utility or joy, but for the silent approval you hope it will bring? A powerful modern application of this is a voluntary digital detox or a period of mindful consumption. This is not about rejecting technology, but about reclaiming your attention from the endless stream of wants it manufactures. For one weekend, silence the notifications and step away from the curated feeds. Cook a simple meal and savor it. Walk without a destination. Read a book made of paper. In that quiet, you will rediscover a confidence that comes from within, a self that is enough, all on its own. It is in the space between wants that you remember who you are. So, as a final reflection for this principle, take a quiet moment and list 3 things you already possess that bring you genuine, uncomplicated contentment. It could be the warmth of sunlight on your skin, the loyalty of a pet, or the simple comfort of a bed at the end of a long day. Write them down. How does the act of naming your sufficiency change the weight of what you think you still need? Stoic mindfulness, or Prosoché, is the foundation of self-mastery. It is the practice of unwavering attention to the movements of your own mind, a gentle but constant vigilance over your thoughts and impulses as they arise. While other principles give you the tools for resilience, Prosoché is the hand that holds them, the moment-to-moment awareness that allows you to apply your training in real time. Epictetus framed this with a powerful analogy. He instructed his students to watch over their own minds as a guard watches over a city, constantly attentive at the gates, questioning every impression that seeks entry. This is not about harsh self-criticism, but about becoming a compassionate observer of your inner world. Modern life is engineered for autopilot. We scroll through feeds, commute familiar routes, and react to emails with a cascade of semi-conscious habits. We live so much of our lives in this distracted fog, and then wonder why our confidence feels shaky because we are not truly present at the helm. Our reactions are on autopilot, dictated by old patterns rather than conscious choice. Prosoché is the act of waking up inside your own life. A practical way to cultivate this is to set simple, hourly reminders during your workday. When the chime sounds, do not just dismiss it. Pause for a single breath and ask yourself a few deliberate questions. What is the current state of my mind? Am I acting with purpose, or am I being pulled by distraction or irritation? Is my focus aligned with my most important task? This is not a long meditation, but a 10-second course correction. It is the practice of reclaiming your attention from the pull of external demands and returning it to your own inner command center. With each check-in, you strengthen your ability to choose your response instead of being hijacked by your first impulse. Your confidence grows from this accumulated self-knowledge, from the quiet certainty that you are the one steering the ship, even in rough seas. So today, carve out just 5 minutes. Sit quietly and do nothing but observe the flow of your thoughts without any judgment. Do not try to stop them or change them. Simply watch them come and go like leaves floating down a stream. This simple act of detached observation is the first and most profound step toward building an unshakable command of your inner world. The Stoics saw the world as a single living organism, and you as a vital part. This 12th hidden pattern, Sympatheia, is the profound recognition that everything in the cosmos is woven together by an invisible, rational thread. Your confidence does not have to be a lonely fortress against a chaotic world, but can instead be the calm understanding that you belong to the world, that you are a single, essential cell in a vast, breathing body. Marcus Aurelius constantly returned to this vision for strength. He wrote, "All things are intertwined with one another. A sacred bond is there." He was not speaking in poetic metaphor, but describing a core Stoic physics, a belief that the universe is a unified, intelligent system where every event, no matter how challenging, serves the health of the whole. When you feel isolated, when a personal failure makes you feel like a solitary, broken piece, you have forgotten this fundamental connection. The anxiety of modern life often stems from this sense of disconnection, this feeling that you are alone in a random, meaningless universe fighting for your tiny share. Sympatheia shatters that illusion. It teaches that your actions ripple outward, and the events that flow toward you, even the difficult ones, are not random attacks but part of a complex, interdependent web you cannot fully see. Consider a story of a cancelled project. Imagine an architect who poured her heart into a design for a community center, only to have the funding suddenly pulled. The immediate, isolated view is one of pure loss and wasted effort. But through the lens of Sympatheia, she might later discover that the cancellation freed her to take on a smaller, more local project, a renovation of a city park. This park project, in turn, connected her with a team of passionate urban gardeners, leading to collaborations she never would have imagined, and ultimately having a more direct, tangible impact on her own neighborhood. The setback was not a meaningless dead end, but a redirection within a larger, living system. Her confidence grows not in spite of the chaos, but because she learns to trust the connectivity of things. She understands that her role is to do her best work with integrity, and then to trust the web of life to weave that work into its proper place. So, bring to mind one past difficulty that felt like a pure loss at the time. A job you did not get, a relationship that ended, a plan that fell apart. Now look for the threads. How did that event, however painfully, connect you to new people, steer you toward a different path, or force you to develop a strength you now rely on? How did that rupture in your individual plan actually weave you more deeply into the fabric of everything else? Marcus Aurelius spoke of an inner citadel, a mental stronghold no external event can breach. He envisioned the soul as a fortress built not of stone, but of reason and virtue, a place you can retreat to when the world grows loud and demanding. This is the 13th hidden pattern, the ultimate destination of all Stoic practice, the cultivation of an unassailable core self. In his private meditations, he wrote, "Nowhere can a person find a more peaceful and untroubled retreat than in his own soul." He was not describing an escape from reality, but a deliberate construction of an inner sanctuary so strong that the chaos outside cannot touch your essential being. Our modern vulnerability stems from living our entire lives outside this fortress, building our homes in the shifting sands of public opinion and unpredictable outcomes. We hand the keys to our confidence to strangers on the internet, to the whims of the economy, to the ever-changing standards of success. This is why a single critical comment can feel like a siege, and a financial loss like the walls have been torn down. The Stoic practice is to stop building your home out there and to start fortifying the one within. Imagine you are about to receive your annual performance review. Your heart is racing, your palms are damp, your entire sense of worth feels tethered to the document your manager is about to open. This is the moment to consciously retreat to your inner citadel. Close your eyes for a single breath and visualize it. What does it look like? Perhaps its walls are made of your proven integrity. Its towers are your past acts of courage. The deep well at its center is the reservoir of your self-knowledge. From this safe, internal vantage point, the review is no longer a verdict on your soul. It is merely information, some of which may be useful for your future actions, the part you actually control. You can listen calmly, absorb what is helpful, and discard what is not, because your foundation is no longer up for debate. So, what is your inner citadel built upon? If you were to name the 3 core virtues that form its strongest bulwarks, what would they be? Is it honesty, resilience, and compassion? Or perhaps justice, discipline, and kindness? Define these virtues for yourself, and you have drawn the blueprint for a confidence that is truly your own. Who are your heroes, and what can their Stoic traits teach you about confidence? The Stoics understood that character is built not just through principles, but through emulation. This 14th hidden pattern focuses on the deliberate study of exemplary figures, providing a living blueprint for how to move through the world with unshakable self-assurance. In an age where genuine mentors can feel scarce, the Stoics created their own personal board of advisors from history and philosophy. They would mentally invite these figures into their daily decisions, asking how a person of profound wisdom and virtue would act in their specific situation. Seneca wrote powerfully about this practice in his letters. He advised, choose a Cotto, a Laelius, a Tubero. Let someone of this character be your guardian and live as if he were watching you. He was not suggesting you lose your own identity, but that you adopt a standard against which to measure your choices, a constant and compassionate witness to your own growth. Modern life often leaves us navigating complex challenges alone, without a clear model for how to behave with integrity under pressure. We might admire a public figure from afar, but their curated image offers little practical guidance for handling a stressful meeting or a personal disappointment. The Stoic practice cuts through this noise. It asks you to select a historical figure whose character you deeply respect and to use them as a mental compass. For instance, when facing a difficult ethical choice at work, you could pause and ask yourself, what would Cotto do? Cotto the Younger was renowned for his unwavering integrity, even when it cost him politically. This is not about guessing what a long-dead Roman would do in a modern office, but about accessing the core virtue he represents. It instantly clarifies the situation, cutting through the fog of social pressure and short-term gain. It connects you to a timeless standard of courage. Your confidence in that moment comes from aligning with an archetype of strength, from knowing your action is part of a larger tradition of moral courage. So, whose example could you invoke? Perhaps it is the calm resilience of Marcus Aurelius when you feel overwhelmed, or the principled honesty of Epictetus when you are tempted to cut a corner. This month, identify one specific trait from a role model you wish to embody. It could be the patience of your grandfather, the creative fearlessness of an artist you admire, or the steadfast justice of a historical leader. Write that single trait down. Then, for the next 30 days, consciously look for one small, daily opportunity to act from that place. How does deliberately wearing the mantle of a virtue you admire begin to reshape your innate sense of self? Stoic confidence isn't selfish, it's rooted in service. This 15th hidden pattern, the discipline of action, reveals that our deepest self-assurance is forged not in personal victory, but in purposeful contribution to others. The Stoics saw the rational, social nature of humanity as an undeniable fact. To act against the common good was to act against your own nature, creating an internal friction that inevitably eroded your inner peace. Marcus Aurelius directed himself to perform every act as if it were the last of his life, but he specifically linked this to doing it with reference to the common good. He wrote, "Let every action aim solely at the common good." This was the ultimate alignment, ensuring that your limited time and energy were invested in what was both right and meaningful. Our modern culture often celebrates a narrow, competitive individualism. We are taught to chase personal branding and solo success, which can lead to a brittle, lonely form of confidence that shatters the moment we face a setback or criticism. We build our identities on being the best, the smartest, the most recognized, and in doing so, we tie our worth to a zero-sum game we can never truly win. The discipline of action offers a different path. It asks you to shift your focus from how a situation serves you to how you can serve the situation with your unique skills and character. Consider a team leader facing a difficult project deadline. The individualistic approach might involve hoarding credit, micromanaging out of fear, and seeing her team members as tools for her own advancement. This creates constant anxiety and a fragile ego, vulnerable to every misstep. Now, imagine she adopts the Stoic discipline. She frames her role not as a boss, but as a servant leader whose primary duty is to clear obstacles for her team and ensure their collective success. She shares information freely, delegates with trust, and publicly credits their hard work. The result is not just a more cohesive and effective team, but a profound shift in her own confidence. Her self-assurance is no longer dependent on being the smartest person in the room, but on her demonstrated capacity to uplift and empower others. This confidence is resilient because it is reinforced by the shared success she helps create, a success far more durable than any solo achievement. Your actions for the common good become the pillars of your own inner citadel. So, as a final prompt for this principle, plan one small, deliberate act of service you can perform today that aligns with your core values. It does not need to be grand. It could be mentoring a junior colleague without expectation of return, or simply listening fully to someone without interrupting. How does the mere intention to act for the benefit of another change the quality of your own self-assurance in this moment? Stoic apatheia is not apathy. It is emotional clarity. This 16th hidden pattern is often misunderstood as a call to feel nothing, to become a cold, unfeeling statue. The truth is far more powerful. Apatheia is the state of freedom from destructive passions, the turbulent, irrational emotions that hijack your judgment and shatter your inner peace. It is the mastery that allows for a confidence rooted in calm discernment, not in reactive impulse. the Stoics sought to replace the storm of raw passion with the steady light of reasoned response. They observed that our suffering rarely comes from the event itself, but from the inflamed judgment we attach to it, the story of catastrophe we spin from a single thread. Seneca dedicated an entire work to this, his profound text on anger. He described anger as a brief madness, a temporary insanity that makes us strangers to ourselves. He argued that no plague has been more costly to the human race. His solution was not suppression, but understanding. He wrote, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." Command yourself to wait. In that pause, the initial fever cools, and you regain the capacity to see the situation for what it is, not for what your anger has painted it to be. Our modern world, with its constant connectivity and algorithmic outrage, is a factory for these destructive passions. A social media post can trigger a wave of indignation that ruins your entire morning. A minor traffic delay can spiral into a full-blown rage that taints your entire day. We are encouraged to emote loudly and constantly, to perform our feelings for an unseen audience. This emotional volatility is the very enemy of a stable, self-assured mind. A practical technique to cultivate apatheia is a simple shift in language. The next time a strong emotion arises, try noting it with the phrase, "I am feeling anger," rather than the definitive, "I am angry." This subtle linguistic change creates a critical space between you and the emotion. You are not the storm, you are the one observing the weather passing through. You are not your rage, you are a person experiencing a temporary, powerful feeling. This distance is where your power resides. It allows you to investigate the root judgment that sparked the feeling. For instance, if a friend cancels plans and you feel a surge of hurt, the automatic judgment might be, "They do not value me." This story is the source of your pain, not the cancellation itself. By creating that distance, you can question the judgment. Is it true they do not value me? Perhaps they are overwhelmed with work or dealing with a personal crisis. This reasoned inquiry dissolves the passion and restores your emotional equilibrium. Your confidence grows from knowing that your inner world is not a puppet to be jerked about by external events, but a garden you can tend with conscious care. This week, choose one strong emotion as it arises. It could be frustration in a long line, jealousy at a friend's success, or anxiety before a presentation. Do not judge it or act on it immediately. Simply observe it and name it. "I am feeling impatient." Then, gently ask yourself, what is the story I am telling myself right now that is causing this feeling? In that quiet question, you will find the first step toward a profound and unshakable tranquility. Your past is a collection of fading memories, and your future is a story you have not yet written. Only this exact moment, the one you are breathing in right now, is truly real and available for your action. The 17th hidden pattern confronts our greatest deception, the belief that we will act confidently when the conditions are perfect, when we feel ready, or when some future day arrives. The Stoics dismantled this illusion by anchoring all virtue, and therefore all genuine confidence, in the present. Marcus Aurelius commanded himself with this stark clarity: confine yourself to the present. He understood that a mind adrift in regret about yesterday or anxiety about tomorrow is a mind too scattered to build anything solid within itself. Your power does not exist in the future tense. It lives in the choices you make in the next 60 seconds. Modern life encourages a constant state of preparation, a deferred living where we research endlessly, plan for the perfect moment, and wait for a surge of motivation that may never come. We tell ourselves we will start that business after one more course, have that difficult conversation when we feel braver, or begin our health journey on the coming Monday. This procrastination is not laziness, it is a fear of the present moment's demand for decisive action. It is the hope that a future version of ourselves will be more capable and more confident than the person we are today. The Stoic pattern shatters this hope not to discourage you but to liberate you. It reveals that confidence is not a prerequisite for action, but its direct result. The act of moving forward, however small the step, generates the self-assurance you have been waiting for. Consider a daunting project like writing a book or learning a complex skill. The entirety of the project can feel overwhelming, a mountain too high to climb, and so we freeze at the base camp of our own anxiety. The Stoic approach is to bring your entire focus down from the intimidating summit and onto the very next step. Your task is not to write a book today, it is to write one single paragraph. Your goal is not to master the violin, it is to practice for 20 focused minutes. By breaking the monumental into the immediate, you transfer your confidence from an unpredictable future outcome to a guaranteed present action. You can control your effort for the next 20 minutes. You cannot control becoming a master. Each completed present moment task becomes a brick in the foundation of your self-trust. You are no longer hoping to be a confident person someday. You are building that person, one present moment decision at a time. So bring to mind one thing you have been putting off, a task that feels shadowed by tomorrow's anxiety. It might be a phone call, the first page of a report, or a 5-minute decluttering of a single drawer. Do not plan to do it later. The opportunity for confidence is now. What one small, immediate action can you take in this very hour to make it real? What if you lost everything you take for granted? This is not a call to fear, but an invitation to a profound shift in perspective. The 18th hidden pattern, negative visualization, is the deliberate practice of imagining the loss of the people, comforts, and abilities you currently possess. By periodically confronting this possibility, you do not summon despair, but awaken a deep and active gratitude that immunizes you against the anxieties of entitlement and loss. The Stoics called this premeditation, and Seneca was its master advocate. He instructed his readers to remind themselves that the things and people they cherish are only on loan from fortune. He wrote, "You must say to yourself whenever your dear ones are present, you will die." He was not being morbid. He was performing a psychological alchemy, transforming the potential pain of future loss into a fierce, present-moment appreciation. We live in a culture of assumed permanence. We operate with the unspoken belief that our health is a given, our relationships are fixed, and our jobs are secure. This sense of entitlement is a fragile foundation for confidence because it leaves us perpetually terrified of any disruption. We cling tightly, and in that clinging, we suffocate the very joy we are trying to preserve. Negative visualization loosens that grip. It allows you to experience the value of what you have by mentally tasting its absence. Consider your career. You might feel stuck in a routine, focusing on the minor irritations and frustrations. Now, close your eyes for a moment and vividly imagine receiving a termination notice. Feel the cold shock, the sudden void where your daily purpose once resided. Then open your eyes. The mundane tasks that felt like burdens minutes ago may now feel like privileges. Your desk, your projects, your colleagues, they are no longer parts of a grind, but active elements of a life you get to live. This mental exercise does not make you complacent. It makes you fiercely committed and creatively engaged with the work you still have. The same applies to your closest relationships. It is easy to take a partner or a parent for granted, to focus on their minor flaws. But imagine with stark clarity a world without their voice, their presence, their laughter. The experience is emotionally jarring, but when you return to the reality that they are still here, your perspective is cleansed. The petty grievances melt away, replaced by a profound and tender appreciation for the simple miracle of their existence. Your confidence in the relationship grows because it is no longer threatened by trivial conflicts, but rooted in a conscious choice to cherish what is fundamentally impermanent. So, as a final reflection for this powerful practice, bring one key blessing sharply into focus. It could be your health, your sight, your home, or a specific person. Now, for just 60 seconds, allow yourself to vividly imagine your life without it. Do not shy away from the feelings that arise. Then, release the thought and return to the present. What do you see now that you were blind to just a moment before? Stoics found confidence in the logos, the rational principle governing all of existence. They envisioned the universe not as a chaotic accident, but as a single, living, intelligent entity where every event, from the falling of a leaf to the rise of an empire, unfolds according to a coherent and benevolent reason. This was not a blind faith, but a reasoned trust in the fundamental order of nature. For them, confidence was the natural state of a mind that has stopped fighting reality and has learned to flow with its current. Marcus Aurelius constantly returned to this anchor, writing, "Accept everything which happens, even if it seems disagreeable, because it leads to this, the health of the universe." Your own peace of mind was inextricably linked to your assent to nature's will. Our modern anxiety often springs from the opposite belief, a deep-seated feeling that life is random and fundamentally unfair. We see a career setback, a personal loss, or a global crisis as proof that the universe is indifferent or even hostile. This perspective makes us feel small, powerless, and perpetually on edge, bracing for the next piece of bad luck. The Stoic pattern of the logos offers a radical alternative, inviting you to see yourself as an integral part of a vast, purposeful whole. The philosopher Cleans, in his beautiful hymn to Zeus, expressed this trusting surrender, writing, "Lead me, O Zeus, and thou, O destiny, to wherever your decrees have assigned me. I follow willingly, and if I did not, a coward as I would be, I would have to follow still." This is the essence of confident action, moving forward not in spite of the unknown, but with a trust that the path itself has meaning. A powerful modern application is to reframe any setback as a necessary redirection within this larger plan. Imagine an aspiring novelist who receives a stream of rejections from literary agents. The immediate, isolated view is one of crushing failure, a sign that their dream is invalid. But through the lens of the logos, they might consider that the universe is guiding them toward a different, perhaps better, form of expression. Perhaps those rejections force them to self-publish, leading them to connect directly with a passionate readership they never would have found through traditional channels. Or maybe the process of repeated failure builds a resilience and a sharper editorial eye that ultimately makes their breakthrough work far more powerful. The obstacle was not a denial of their goal, but a sculpting of their path. Your confidence, then, transforms from a hope that things will go your way into a deep trust that whatever happens is the raw material for your growth and contribution to the whole. So, bring to mind one past event that initially felt like a pure misfortune, a door slamming shut in your face. With the benefit of hindsight, can you now trace the hidden door it opened? How did that very difficulty set you on a course you would have otherwise missed, weaving your life more deeply into the intricate and rational tapestry of everything? Seneca ended each day with a rigorous self-examination. He would retreat into the quiet of his own mind and ask his soul a series of pointed questions. Where did I go wrong today? Was I guided by reason or by a fleeting passion? Did my actions serve the common good? This nightly ritual was not an exercise in self-punishment, but a masterclass in self-awareness, a deliberate process of turning daily life into a continuous curriculum for building a better character. The Stoics called this practice their evening review, and they understood it as the essential tool for compounding small, daily improvements into an unshakable confidence. In our modern rush, we often collapse into bed with our minds still buzzing from the day's noise, scrolling through one last screen until consciousness fades. We move from one day to the next without a moment of integration, doomed to repeat the same unconscious patterns and emotional reactions. The evening review breaks this cycle. It carves out a small sanctuary of silence to learn from the person you were today, so you can become more capable tomorrow. Seneca wrote in his letters that we should subject our days to scrutiny, arguing that nothing is more profitable than this daily reckoning with oneself. The goal is not to brood over failures, but to calmly identify the gap between your intentions and your actions and to gently close it. A simple way to start is with a 3-minute journal. Ask yourself just 2 questions. First, what is one thing I did well today that aligned with my core values? Perhaps you listened patiently to a colleague instead of interrupting, or you chose a healthy meal over a convenient one. Acknowledging these small wins builds the neural pathways of self-respect. The second question is this: where did I stray from my own standards? Did I speak harshly out of irritation? Did I procrastinate on an important task out of fear? The key is to observe this without self-flagellation, to see the misstep not as a personal failing but as a specific, correctable error in judgment. This reframes every mistake from a stain on your identity into a single day to point for your growth. Your confidence grows from this tangible evidence that you are actively learning, that you are no longer asleep at the wheel of your own life. So tonight, before you surrender to sleep, reclaim just 3 minutes. Find a quiet space and ask your soul those 2 simple questions. What single lesson from today will you carry into the dawn? Stoics called wealth and health indifferents, not because these things do not matter, but because they must never define you. Your confidence cannot be built on a foundation you do not fully control. This principle draws a stark line between what is merely preferred and what is fundamentally good. A preferred indifferent is something like financial security or a comfortable home, things it is perfectly rational to want and work toward. A dispreferred indifferent is their opposite, like poverty or illness, things we naturally try to avoid. Yet both categories are ultimately indifferent when measured against the only true good, your virtuous character. Your integrity, your courage, your wisdom, these are the qualities that constitute your real self, the core that remains when every external advantage is stripped away. We live in a world that screams the opposite. It tells us our value is our job title, our net worth, our social media following. We internalize this message, and so our self-assurance rises and falls with the stock market or the whims of public opinion. This is a fragile existence, a constant roller coaster of anxiety and temporary relief. Epictetus, who owned almost nothing, understood this trap with perfect clarity. He advised his students to handle externals with care, but without attachment, like a traveler at an inn who uses the room without mistaking it for a permanent home. He said, "I must I die groaning too? I must be exiled, but is there anything to keep me from going with a smile?" His point was not that exile is pleasant, but that your dignity and confidence are separate from your location. They travel with you. Imagine 2 people experiencing the same financial loss. One falls into a deep despair, their entire identity shattered because their sense of worth was completely invested in their portfolio. They feel like a failure and their confidence evaporates. The other, who has practiced this stoic indifference, feels the practical stress and inconvenience, of course. Yet their core self remains intact and confident. They know their ability to act with resilience, to problem solve, and to maintain their integrity is what truly matters. Their value was never in the bank account. It was in the mind and character that built it in the first place, and that same mind is now fully capable of navigating the challenge. This is the source of an unshakable confidence. So, turn this lens inward for a moment. Identify one preferred indifferent in your own life that you have subtly allowed to become a source of your self-worth. Is it your professional title, the model of your car, the number of likes on your posts? Acknowledge its preferred nature, but then gently remind yourself that your true confidence was never meant to live there. It belongs to the choices you make and the character you build, regardless of what you own or lose. What if seeking comfort is making you weaker? The Stoics identified this paradox as a core pattern for building resilience, a principle we can call voluntary discomfort. In a world that champions ease and convenience, this idea seems almost alien. Yet, it is through the deliberate and periodic embrace of manageable hardship that we forge a confidence immune to life's inevitable disruptions. The goal is not to punish yourself but to train. It is a form of psychological inoculation, exposing yourself to small doses of difficulty so that when a genuine challenge arrives, you are not paralyzed by fear. You have already walked through a similar fire and emerged unscathed. The Roman teacher Musonius Rufus was a powerful advocate for this training. He argued that practicing poverty makes you fearless in the face of actual poverty, and enduring hardship voluntarily prepares you for involuntary hardship. He saw comfort as a trap, writing that luxury and extravagance are the most compelling causes of ruin to a state and the surest means of destroying an empire. He was speaking of societies, but the same decay happens within the individual soul. When we build a life entirely around avoiding any and all discomfort, we become fragile. Our confidence becomes conditional on everything going smoothly, a condition the universe rarely meets. Modern life is a temple to this avoidance. We have climate-controlled environments, on-demand entertainment, and food delivered to our doors in minutes. We structure our lives to eliminate friction, and in doing so, we atrophy our innate capacity to endure. We mistake the absence of struggle for happiness, when in truth, it often leads to a quiet anxiety, a fear that we could not handle it if our comforts were ever taken away. The practice of voluntary discomfort rebuilds that capacity. It is not about grand gestures of self-denial, but about small, consistent acts of resistance against the pull of ease. Start with something simple and entirely safe. Take a cold shower for the final 30 seconds of your morning routine. The initial shock is a pure physical protest. Your mind will scream for you to turn it back to warm, but if you breathe through the discomfort and focus only on the sensation, something shifts. You are not being attacked by the cold, you are choosing it, and in that choice you reclaim your power over your own reactions. Another powerful practice is to skip a single meal, not for weight loss, but for the mental clarity of experiencing hunger without panic. You prove to yourself that you can be uncomfortable and still be okay. Your confidence is no longer tied to a full stomach or perfect warmth. It begins to root itself in the unshakable knowledge that you can handle more than you think. So this week, choose one small voluntary discomfort. It could be walking without your phone, taking the stairs instead of the elevator, or having a conversation without checking your notifications. After you complete it, pause and observe the subtle shift inside. Do you feel a little stronger, a little more capable, a little less afraid of what the day might bring? For Stoics, courage without justice is recklessness. Virtues are inseparable. True confidence does not come from excelling in one area of character while neglecting another. It emerges from a life of complete integrity where your actions form a single, coherent whole. The four cardinal virtues of Stoicism, wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, are not isolated skills to be collected. They are interlocking strands of a single rope. If one strand frays, the entire line weakens, and your self-assurance along with it. You cannot be truly wise if your wisdom is not tempered by justice. You cannot be truly courageous if your bravery is not guided by self-control. This ancient idea of the unity of virtue was heavily influenced by Plato, who argued that to know the good is to do the good, and the Stoics built their entire ethical system upon this foundation of wholeness. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself of this interconnectedness, writing that what is not good for the hive is not good for the bee. Your personal integrity is the hive, and every virtue must contribute to its health. Modern life, however, encourages a compartmentalized ethics. We might praise a CEO for their courageous business strategy while overlooking the unjust layoffs used to achieve it. We might admire a friend's disciplined fitness regimen while ignoring their intemperate anger in personal relationships. We celebrate narrow excellence, but this fractured approach creates a fragile confidence, one that can be shattered the moment our neglected virtue creates a consequence we can no longer ignore. Consider a modern business leader facing a pivotal decision. Her company is under pressure to cut costs, and the board is pushing for a rapid, aggressive innovation into a new market, a move that requires immense courage. The untrained, compartmentalized mind might charge ahead, focusing only on the bold vision and the potential reward, but the Stoic pattern of unified virtue intervenes. She pauses and asks if this courageous move is also a just one. Will the innovation be achieved by exploiting workers or by cutting corners that harm the community? If so, then it is not true courage but recklessness disguised as bravery. She then applies wisdom, carefully weighing the long-term impacts, and temperance, ensuring the pace of change does not burn out her team. Only when the decision harmonizes courage with justice, wisdom, and moderation does it become a source of genuine, unshakable confidence. She can move forward knowing her actions are ethically sound from every angle, leaving no hidden weakness in her character. So turn this lens on your own life. Is there a single virtue you have been neglecting? Perhaps you practice great discipline in your work, but lack justice in your quick judgments of others. Maybe you show courage in your professional risks, but lack the temperance to manage your personal finances. Identify that one area. Now, reflect on a recent decision where you felt uncertain or insecure. How would integrating that missing virtue have changed your approach and solidified your confidence in the outcome? In a noisy world, the Stoics sought the silence where true understanding grows. They understood that a mind perpetually filled with external voices, notifications, and opinions could never hear its own. This deliberate practice of solitude was not about loneliness or withdrawal, but about creating the necessary space for an inner dialogue with your own reason, the very source of independent judgment. It is in these quiet moments that you learn to trust your own mind, building a confidence that is self-sourced rather than crowd-approved. Seneca wrote passionately about this, calling solitude the state in which we converse with ourselves. He saw it as an essential retreat where we can call our thoughts to account, asking where we have been self-indulgent or where our courage has failed. This is the opposite of escapism. It is the most direct form of self-confrontation and self-construction. Our modern environment is a war against this very silence. We fill every spare second with a podcast, a scroll, a video, terrified of being alone with our own thoughts for even a moment. This constant stimulation acts like a fog, preventing us from seeing our own mental landscape clearly. We outsource our thinking to algorithms and influencers, and then wonder why our confidence feels so shaky, because it is built on a foundation of borrowed ideas we have never truly examined. A powerful way to reclaim this space is to institute a daily 5-minute silent sit. It requires no special equipment or training, Simply find a quiet chair, set a timer, and close your eyes. Your only task is to focus on the natural rhythm of your breath. Do not try to stop your thoughts, just watch them come and go without engaging. At first, this may feel strange or even frustrating, as your mind thrashes like a fish out of water, desperate for its usual distractions. But with consistency, the mental fog begins to clear. In that new clarity, you start to hear your own voice, the one that knows what you truly value and what your next right step should be. This is not meditation for spiritual attainment. It is practical mental maintenance for building self-trust. Tomorrow, I challenge you to schedule just 10 minutes of true solitude. Leave your phone in another room, go for a walk without headphones, or simply sit by a window. Do nothing. In that quiet, what is the first thought or question that arises from within you when no one else is there to provide an answer? Every day, you play multiple roles, from parent and partner to employee and friend. The Stoics called these your kathikonta, your appropriate actions or duties. They believed that true confidence is not found in grand, sweeping declarations of self, but in the quiet, consistent excellence with which you fulfill these everyday obligations. This principle argues that your self-assurance is built brick by brick through the virtuous performance of the roles life has given you, acting in each one with reason and according to your nature. When you neglect a core duty, you feel a subtle erosion of your own self-respect, a nagging sense of being out of alignment. But when you lean into your responsibilities with full presence and integrity, you build a foundation of competence and character that nothing can easily shake. Epictetus, who focused intensely on this idea, advised his students to perform every act as if it were the last of their life, to do what is set before you with all your heart. He was not talking about a frantic hustle, but about a profound focus on the quality of your own effort within the role you currently occupy. Our modern world often creates role confusion and burnout precisely because we try to be everything to everyone at once, or we chase external validation from one role while neglecting the foundational duties of another. We seek confidence from a job title while our health suffers, or we seek it from social likes while our real-world relationships fray. The Stoic way is to clarify your roles and then pour your virtue into them, one at a time. Consider a mid-level manager overwhelmed by the demands of their position. They feel insecure because they are constantly comparing their outcomes to others, worried about the next quarter's results, a future they cannot control. Their confidence is tied to a stock price or a performance review. Now, imagine they shift their focus entirely to their kathikonta. Their duty is not to guarantee a specific profit margin, but to lead their team with fairness, to prepare reports with meticulous accuracy, to communicate with clarity and honesty. They pour their energy into mastering these actions, the things within their power. The outcome of the quarterly report remains uncertain, but their confidence grows daily because it is now rooted in the tangible evidence of their own diligent effort. They know they are showing up fully and virtuously for the role they have been assigned. This is how duty forges an unshakable core. So, take a quiet moment to list your own key roles in life right now. Not the ones you aspire to, but the ones you actually hold. Then, choose just one, perhaps the one you find most challenging. How well are you fulfilling that role with virtue today? Is your effort focused on the quality of your action rather than the applause you hope to receive? Marcus Aurelius, as emperor, reminded himself daily that fame is fleeting. He wrote in his private meditations, "The memory of everything is very soon overwhelmed in eternal gulf." He was the most powerful man in the known world, yet he understood that the applause of the crowd was as substantial as smoke, destined to vanish without a trace. This is the 26th hidden pattern, the radical acceptance of impermanence, especially as it applies to your reputation. The Stoics taught that tying your self-worth to the opinions of others is like building your house on a foundation of shifting sand. You will forever be at the mercy of the next wave of public sentiment, a slave to praise and devastated by blame. True confidence is not the roar of the crowd, but the quiet certainty that you are living by your own principles, regardless of who is watching. Seneca exposed the foolishness of this chase with brutal clarity. He wrote, "What difference does it make how much is laid away in a strong box or treasure house if it does not suit the one who has it? What good does it do to have many books and libraries if the owner scarcely reads the titles?" He was pointing out that a reputation, like a hoard of treasure, is useless if it does not serve the health of your own soul. The person who craves validation is always hungry, no matter how much praise they consume. Our modern world, with its social media metrics and professional branding, has turned this craving into a full-time occupation. We anxiously check for likes, we shape our words to avoid offense, we mold our public persona to be palatable and popular. This constant performance is exhausting, and it systematically erodes any authentic sense of self. Your confidence becomes a weather vane, spinning wildly with every new comment or comparison. A powerful way to break this cycle is to conduct a one-day reputation fast. For 24 hours, make a conscious decision to act based solely on your internal compass of what is right and true, with zero regard for how it will be perceived. This does not mean being intentionally rude or contrarian. It means that before you speak, post, or act, you ask one simple question: is this aligned with my values, or am I doing this for approval? Perhaps you choose to share an unconventional idea in a meeting without softening it for consensus. Maybe you decline an invitation you would normally accept out of social obligation, choosing instead to honor your need for rest. Each small, principled action, taken without an eye on the external reward, is a brick laid in the foundation of your true confidence. You are proving to yourself that your worth is not negotiable, that it does not require a second party to validate. So, as a final prompt for this principle, I challenge you to one act of quiet integrity. This week, do one thing you genuinely believe is right, knowing it might be misunderstood or even unpopular. It could be defending a colleague privately, or finally voicing a creative idea you have been keeping to yourself. Do it not for the reaction, but for the private satisfaction of aligning your action with your character. How does releasing the need for a positive outcome change the weight of the action itself? These timeless patterns are not locked in ancient texts. They are a living architecture for the mind, a blueprint you can use to construct a confidence that endures. We began with the fundamental separation between what is within your power and what is not, the dichotomy of control that stops you from exhausting your spirit on the unchangeable. We explored the resilient embrace of your entire fate, Amor Fati, which transforms every obstacle into the very path forward. We uncovered the radical idea that your only true possession is your character, your virtue, the sole foundation that cannot be taken from you. From the mental clarity of cognitive detachment to the purposeful perspective of the view from above, each pattern is a tool for reclaiming your inner world. This is the profound promise of Stoicism, that your self-assurance does not depend on your circumstances, but on the quality of your judgments and the integrity of your actions. The legendary teacher Epictetus, who knew profound hardship, left us with a final, powerful truth. He said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And then he added this: there is only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things which are beyond the power of our will. This is the essence of an unshakable core, the invincibility of a well-trained mind. You do not need to master all these principles at once. the journey begins with a single, small step. Choose just one idea that resonated with you today. Perhaps it is pausing before you assent to a negative thought, or performing one act of service without expectation of reward. Maybe it is simply taking 1 minute tonight to ask your soul where you strayed from your own standards. This small, consistent practice is how you build a confidence that is truly your own. We would love to hear which Stoic idea has already begun to shift your perspective. Share the one principle that resonated most with you in the comments below. Your insight might be the very spark that helps another person find their own footing on this ancient path to inner